Good evening, viewers. So today we will going to discuss about three units, that is about your political parties, pressure group, and electoral system or electoral process. Okay. So first we start about political parties. What is political parties and how it's working for the government? Okay. Political parties are voluntary associations or organizations group or individual who share the same political views and who try to gain political power through constitutional means and who desire to work for promoting the national interest. Okay. There are four types of political parties in the modern democratic states. And what are the four important political parties? First one is reactionary parties, who clinging to the old socio-economic and political institutions. Then second one is conservative party, which believes in the status quo. Okay. And the third one is liberal parties, which aim at reforming the existing institutions. And fourth one is radical parties, which aim at establishing a new order by overthrowing the existing institutions. So, in this way, parties can be categorized broadly into four categories in their classifications of political parties on the basis of ideologies. The political scientists have placed the radical parties on the left and liberal parties in the center, and reactionary and conservative parties on the right. In other words, they are described as the leftist parties, centralist parties, and the rightist parties. Okay. In India, the CPI and CPM are the example of leftist parties. Okay. In India. Okay. The Congress of centralist parties and the BJP is an example of rightist parties. These are the examples in case of India. Okay. Then there are three kinds of party system in the world. That is one party systems, in which only one ruling party exists and no opposition party is permitted. As for example, in the former communist countries like the USSR and other East European countries. Okay. They have one party system. Then second one is two party system or bi-party system. Okay. In which two major parties exist, as for example in USA. Okay. Or in Britain. Okay. Then third parties is multi-party system. Third party one is multi-party system, in which there are a number of political parties leading to the formation of coalition government. Okay. For example, like India is a great examples of multi-party systems. France, Switzerland, Italy, they have multi-party systems. Okay. Then how political party system or political parties function? Okay. What do parties do for democratic government that makes them indispensable or the sine qua non of a modern political society? We identify six categories of functions that political parties perform in a democratic political system. Okay. Finally, the political parties unite sectional interest, bridge the geographical differences, and include cohesions. Okay. In other words, parties perform the functions of interest aggregation. That is, they gather together the various interests, priorities, and options of their leaders and constituents and shape them into common goals and policy proposals. This ensure both order and systematic maintenance. The interest aggregation functions of political parties stands in sharp contrast to that of interest or pressure group, which work only for the advantage of the cause their own group. Okay. Secondly, political party contributes to democratic government by nominating candidates for elections to public office. Okay. In the absence of parties, voters would be confirmed with a array of self-nominated candidate, each seeking a narrow victory over other because of personal friendship. Okay. Fame or name. for their name and fame. Okay, parties minimize this danger by setting up their candidates in different constituencies. They carry out campaigns in win elections. Okay, they also defy the cost of contesting elections where the candidate is a poor person. Okay, again, political parties help democratic government by structuring voting choice, reducing the number of candidates on the ballot to those who have realistic chance of winning. Okay, parties that have won sizable portions of the vote in past elections are likely to win comparable portions of the vote in future ones also. Okay, this discourage non-party or non-serious candidates from running for the office. Okay, this in turn focus the elections on the contest between parties and on candidates with established record, which reduces the amount of new informations that voters need to make a rational decisions. Okay, another crucial functions of a party is that of coordination within government. In addition to coordination within society and between government and society at large through it interest aggregation functions. A political party acts as a bridge between the legislature and the executive. Okay, in both the cases of presidential form of government and parliamentary form of government. Okay, in addition, political parties structures coordinations between different levels of government, national, regional or state. That means it maintain coordination between the regional government, national government or state or local government. Okay, as we saw in as the role of the political parties has in fact made them informal government in democracies, as the power of the legislature have now been to a great extent by political parties. Okay, similarly, in both federal and unitary form of government, political parties structures coordinations between different level of government. Okay, with when parties perform these functions comprehensively and effectively, it becomes reasonable to regard parties as organizations rather than the individual politicians who hold office in their name as central political actors. Okay, then political parties also help voters choose candidate by proposing alternative program of government action in the form of party manifesto. Okay, these specific policies advocated in an election campaign may vary from candidate to candidate. Okay, and from election to election. Okay, the types of policies advocated by candidates of one party nonetheless unless tend to differ from those proposed by candidates of other parties. Okay, in the case of the United States, for example, even though the neutrality of the names of major political parties, namely Democratic and Republic, suggest that they are undifferentiated in their policies. In reality, however, these parties regularly adopt very different policies in their platform. Okay, though victory is certainly the first commandment of a political party in a democracy, defeated of party also does not mean it's determined. Okay, in this case, a party functions as a critic of watchdog of the government policy. That means party functions as a critic of watchdog of the government policy. Okay, political parties play an extremely significant role in democracy. Okay, in democratic government, political parties a very important role. Okay, while on the one hand they must maintain and strengthen the structure of democratic norms and values, on the other they have to secure maximum mobilizations for social and economic development. Political parties have thus to induce both political and socio-economic development. So in this way political parties functions. Okay, then what is party and party system? Okay, in a system of democratic politics, political parties constantly interact and respond to each other in a competitive struggle to shape or influence the government. Okay, this inter-party competition guarantees a systematic pattern of institutional agreement of party life and party interacts known as party system. Okay, party system represents the whole political spectrum. Okay, the whole political phenomena in which political parties are the constituent units. Okay, there are significant variations in the arrangement, functions and number of political parties in a system. Okay, that is different from one country to another country. These and other similarities characteristics are often used to describe and classify the party system of different politics. Okay, for instance, they have classified based on competitiveness of opposition, on the degree of institutionalizations and on the extent of citizens involvement in politics. Okay, the most widely accepted criteria, however, has been the number of parties, often defined in terms of their relative size. Okay, several scholars or of comparative politics have classified party system based on the number of parties or their relative size. Most of such classifications have been modifications of the system initially proposed by the two French political scientists. Okay, by the two French political scientists. Okay, and the classifications in which way, there are two broad classifications. One is one party system, and the other is plural party system. In the first category, he included two types of party system. That means one party system include two type of party system. That is one party system, and second one is dominant party system. Whereas in the second category, okay, second category means dominant party system category, it also include two party system. Okay, two party system, that is it also include two types of party system. First one is two party system and the second one is multi party system. Okay, so Bundle carried forward the work on classifications of party system by not only defining the types identified by Duperger in operational terms, but also introduce additional categories. On the basis of share of votes, Bondel distinguishes two-party system, two and a half party system, multi-party system with a predominant party and multi-party system with a predominant party. His typology was derived by investigating cluster in the average share of the vote owned by the largest two parties and then considering the ratio of the first party share to that of the second and third parties. Okay, in the two-party system where two-party system resides or functions in United States, New Zealand, Australia, and UK. Okay, the two-party systems here about 90% and above and closely balanced between the two parties. Okay, in the next cluster, the two-party share range from its range is 75 to 80% of the vote cast, but there was a wide average differences between the first and second party systems. Okay, taking account of imbalance in the share of the vote, Bondel categorized these two and a half rather than three party system. Bondin classified all other as genuinely multi-party system that can be divided into multi-party system with a predominant party. Okay, and multi-party system without a predominant party. This type are distinguished by the share of vote obtained solely by the largest party, the shareholders being set a 40%. Okay, then what is two-party system? Then we discuss about two-party system. In a two-party system, two major political parties generally share core values, though they may differ on specifics. Okay, this is the features of two-party systems. Neither of the two are more stable or powerful than the other of a permanent basis. That means in two-party system or in bi-party system, there is there is a presence of two-party system. When one party is a ruling party, another party stands its opposition party. Okay, and and both the parties playing an important role. Okay, then there is a constant competitions between the two party system for securing majority of popular votes and seat in the legislature. Okay, both the parties keep on occupying either the treasury benches or seat in the oppositions, though this may not always be alternate. Besides, they may be one or more smaller parties also in the two party systems, but they are not recognized. Only two parties are in two party systems. In two party system government, only they are recognized two party systems. Okay, but the smaller parties neither come to power nor do they normally influence the outcome of elections, though at times smaller parties may associate themselves with one or the other major party. Okay, as we saw in Bondel's calculus, these parties fall under the category of two and a half parties. At times, a third emerging party may even compete with the major parties, as was done in 1970 by the Liberal Democratic parties in Britain. Okay, and then some of the examples of two-party systems are first one is the modern political party system in the USA. USA is a great example of bi-party systems or two-party systems. The two-party system dominated by the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. What are the two important party present in USA? Democratic Party and Republican Party. Okay, these two parties have won every United States presidential election since 1852. Okay, and have controlled the United States Congress to some extent since at least 1856. Okay, then in United Kingdom, they also possess biparty systems. United Kingdom is not quite a two-party system, or as other parties have significant support. The major parties were Conservative and Labour Party. Okay, the Liberal Democrats were the third party until the 2050 general elections. Okay, there is also a presence of third party systems, that is the Liberal Democratic Party in the timing of 2015, when they were overtaken by the Scottish National Party in terms of seats and UK political parties membership, and by the United Independence Party in terms of vote. But genuinely, there is a presence of only two party system, that is Conservative Party and Labour Party systems. Okay, the two party groups dominated in Australia also. Okay, Australian political spectrum forming a de facto of two party systems. Okay, one is the Australian Labour Party ALP. Okay, and a center left party which is formally linked to the Australian Labour movement. The other group is conservative group of parties. First one is Australian Labour Party, and second one is conservative group of parties that are in coalitions at the federal level. These are the some examples of biparty system. Beside these three countries, there are also other many countries where there is practice of biparty system. Then we discuss about what is multi-party systems and how multi-party system is work. Okay, when the evolutions of society and the democratic process, multiple parties emerge with its unique ideology and belief or objects. Okay, multi-party system is characterized by the presence of a fairly large number of parties, big or small, contesting for power through elections. Okay, this system is found in both developed and developing countries. In this system, the party which gets the highest number of seats from the government, you will be reading about methods of representations later in this block. Okay, here you should not note that in some situations when no party receives clear majority to form the government, two or more like minded parties may come together and form a coalition government. Such governments generally adopt a common minimum program for governance, as they do not have the commitment to any one ideology. For a few examples of multi-party systems, in Switzerland has a multi-party system since 1959. the four largest parties have formed a coalition government according to a Jumper Forel and magic formula. This arithmetic formula divides the seven cabinet seats among representatives of the four largest parties. Okay. But in Australia, there is also a multi-party systems over the seven registered political part 700 registered political parties. Only few are known to the larger public, like Australian People's Party, Social Democratic Party of Australia, and Freedom Party of Australia. Okay, since the 1980s, four parties have consistently received enough vote to get seat in the national parliament. Okay, Belgium is a federal state with a multi-party system with numerous parties like New Flemish Alliance, Christian Democratic and Flemish and Socialist Party, who factually have no chance to gaining power alone and therefore must work each other to form coalition government. Okay, in New Zealand there is also practice of multi-party systems. Okay, national political features a pervasive party system. Usually, all members of parliament, unicameral House of Representative belongs to a political party. Okay, independent MPs occur relatively rarely. Okay, while two primary parties do indeed still dominate the New Zealand political landscape, the country now more closely resembles a multi-party state since the introductions of proportional representations, where smaller parties can reasonably expect to play a role in the government. Okay, political parties in Italy are numerous, and since World War II, no party has ever gained enough support to govern alone. Okay, then India is a great example of multi-party system. India is an established multi-party democratic comprising of national, regional, state level parties. Okay, as per latest publication from Election Commissions of India, the total number of party registers was 2599 with 8 national parties, 53 state parties, and 2538 unrecognized parties. Okay, multi parties collaborate together to form coalition government both at state and center. Okay, this is all about multi party system. Then what is one party systems? Okay, as the name suggests, this system allows a single party to hold power. Okay, binary parties can be allowed to exist, but they have to by default accept the leadership of the single existing party. That means there is only working party or ruling party. This single party might not exactly be referred to the government, but the creed and leadership within the party are more influential than the government. Since party systems are often placed lower in the scale of democratic index and are equated with the authoritarian regime and tyranny. Some of the prominent examples of one-party systems is contemporary times are given below. Like North Korea is governed by Kim dynasty, which will rule entirely according to the fundamental principles of the ruling party known as the Workers' Party of Korea. Okay, then second one is People's Republic of China was declared as a de facto one-party state, that is Communist Party of China, with the president as the general secretary. Then the only legal party in Vietnam is known as the Communist Party of Vietnam. Okay, like CPV. The party centrally controls state organs, the media, and the military. The Vietnamese Fatherland Front Party BFF exists without many powers because the constitutions of Vietnam gives CPB the supremacy under Article 4. In Cuba, there is also there is also dominations of one party system, and in Cuba no political party can hold campaign meeting. Okay, the president of Communist Party of Cuba is elected to office for every 5 years, and there is no restrictions as to number of times he can contest for the same seat. Okay, These are all about one party system. Then what is dominant party system? In a dominant party system, several political parties exist, but only one party has the capabilities to form the government. In this system, though rooted in democratic traditions, other parties have raised chances to coming to power. The emergence of the dominant party systems can be attributed to several factors such as popularity among the masses, and its historical lineage, charismatic leadership, strong organizational structure, etc. The Congress dominance in India from 1952 to 1967 could be seen as the predominant party system. Okay, the Bharatiya Janata Party, which is in power at the center since May 2014, and in many states in India, is also seen as dominant party. Okay, then we discuss about trends in the evolutions of party organizations. Okay, in the early stage of their evolutions, parties were created internally within the parliament to voice common concern and fight an effective campaign. They are also referred to as party. Okay, as we saw in the early 19th century, very few people qualified for suffrage, and therefore a few elites, noble aristocrats, and wealthy people came together for the governance or implementations of public policies. With the rise of nationalism in many parts of Asia, Africa, and Latin America in the first half of the 20th century, as well as the spread of adult franchise, the parties broadened their appeal. Okay, this led to the rise of mass parties and parties with large membership of a bureaucratic, centralized, and hierarchical form of organization. These mass parties originated outside the parliament, challenging the established ideology or rule, trying to seek their own representations. Okay, these are all about our um, party systems and how party system is functions, in which way one party system is functions, and in which way country one party system follow, how bi-party systems is functions, and how multi-party systems is functions. This is all about our political parties. Then next we discuss in your next unit, there is discussions held about pressure group. What is pressure group? Okay, the term pressure group originated in the USA. Remember, the pressure group term its origin country is USA. Okay, a pressure group is a group of people who are organized actively for promoting and defending their common interest. It is so called as an attempt to bring a change in the public policy by exerting pressure on the government. It acts as a license between the government and its members. Okay, the pressure group are also called interest group and vested group. They are different from the political parties in that they neither contest election nor try to capture political power. They are concerned with specific program and issues, and their activities are confined to the protections and promotions of the interest of their members by influencing the government. Okay, the group influence the policy making and policy implementations in the government through legal and legitimate methods like lobbying, correspondence, publicity, propagandizing, petitions, public debating, maintaining contact and their legislature, and so forth. Okay, however, sometimes they restore to illegitimate and illegal method like strike, violence activities, and corruptions which damage public interest and administrative integrity. Okay, according to Odegaard, pressure group resort three different techniques in securing their purposes. First technique is they can try to place in public office person who are favorably disposed towards the interest they seek to promote. Okay, these techniques may be labeled electronic. Okay, then second is they can try to pursue public offices whether they are initially favorable disposed towards them or not, okay, to adapt and enforce the policies that they think will prove most beneficial to their interest, and these techniques may be labeled lobbying. Then third one is they can try to influence public opinion and thereby gain an indirect influence over government. Since the government in a democracy is substantially affected by the public opinion, these techniques may be labeled as propaganda. Okay, and by these are the three techniques which was used by the pressure group. Okay, then defining pressure groups according to some eminent person. Okay, according to JWM Messenger, he defined organized group possessing both formal structure and real common interest in so far as they influence the decisions of public bodies. Okay, then according to Samuel Feiner, the organization according to Samuel Feiner, he defined pressure group as organizations trying to influence the policy of public bodies in their own chosen directions through never themselves prepared to undertake the direct government of the country. Okay, then Peter Shipley, he defined political parties as an associations of individual joined together by common interest, belief actively or purposes that seek to achieve its objective, further its interest and enhance its status in relation to other groups by gaining the approval of cooperations or of authority in the form of favorable policies, legislation and coordinations. Then according to NC Hunt, organizations which seek to influence government policy without at the same time being willing to accept the responsibility of public office. Okay, these are the some important definitions relating to pressure group. Then origin of pressure group. Okay, in ancient Greek philosopher Aristotle in his book Politics famously said man by nature is a social animal. Okay, this idea of Aristotle implies that man cannot live alone, and the man enter into the relationship with other to live a social and political life. This behavior of man incentivizes them to form social group in almost every spheres of life. Okay, therefore as many scholars also suggested, even since the inceptions of organized human society, there had been group in society whose character and activities were similar to what we identify today as pressure group. Okay, the origin country of pressure group, as I already told you that origin country of pressure group is USA. Okay, then in this regard, group policies can be considered as well as the human society itself, people belonging to different sections of society, but it recognized caste, ethnicity, professions, trade union, farmer came together and voluntarily organized themselves in order to advance their interest. Okay, in this way pressure group form. Okay, then pressure group gain prominence in the modern times, particularly after the American and French Revolution in the 18th century. The spread of democratic rights, ideas, and values lead to an atomizing increase in the number of pressure group. Prominent among the pressure group are those of minorities and women. Okay, they have come together to demand social and political rights to ensure that they are not subjugated. Okay, for instance, the abolition society in Britain was found in 1787 to oppose the slave trade. Okay, similar, the Society of Women's Right was found in France in 1866 with the purposes of starting a worldwide women's suffrage movement. Okay, these are the some examples of pressure group. Then pressure group and other social organizations. What are the pressure group organization and what are the other social group organizations? It is easily conceivable that there can be many kinds of groups in a political system which may be organized and cohesive, such as interest group, political parties, civil society organizations, CSOS, and so on. Although these groups exist to serve their common interests, they differ from what we identified as pressure groups. Therefore, we should be able to differentiate pressure group from other groups. Okay, then what is pressure group and interest group? Among the many social groups, interest groups are possibly the close to pressure group. In fact, many scholars do not make a distinction between pressure group and interest group, and they often treat the two as synonymously. Okay, as Alan R. Bull, okay, for example, puts pressure groups under the same category as interest group, or at interest group or attitude group, etc. Okay, he defined this group as social aggregates with some level of chosen and shared aims which attempt to influence the political decision making process. Likewise, Robert A. Silsberg also argued pressure group is only more pejorative, but perhaps more familiar a term for interest group. For this scholar, pressure group in a sense are similar to interest group in that they strive to achieve the interest of their members. There are other groups of schools who seeks to differentiate pressure group from interest group. They believe that pressure group always attempt to influence the government decision making process. Their main role is their main functions is always they pressurize government or they influence government, and they try to fulfill the public demand. Okay, and their attempt is how they pressurize government. Okay, whereas interest group do not necessarily have the intent to do so. That is the basic difference between pressure group and interest group. Interest group nearly insist on promoting their interest to achieve their specific goal, but they do not exact pressure on the government. Okay, therefore, the word pressure can be taken as a basic point of distinction between the two. That means pressure group use the attempt or use the feature of pressure, but interest group do not use that feature. Okay, for these scholars, pressure groups are far more powerful than interest group or any group or similar kind because they have the intent or capability to pressurize the government to get policy decisions favorable to them. Okay, in this regard, UJ Bond says every group is an interest group or a group with an interest, but not every group attempts to influence public policy. This implies that interest groups transform themselves into pressure groups when they begin to influence the decision making process. In a sense, one can say that all pressure groups are interest groups, but not all interest groups necessarily transform into pressure groups. Okay, then what is the role of pressure groups and political parties? Okay, both pressure groups and political parties are important agencies which aims to achieve the interest of different sections of society. In some respect, the roles of pressure groups are parallel to those of political parties as agent of political mobilizations and representations by linking the government and the governance body. Okay, but there are theoretical and practical distinction between the two. While political parties aim to get into power and form the government, pressure groups generally seek to influence and pressurize the government in accordance with the particular interests and aspirations of the people they represent. Okay, this is the basic difference between political parties and pressure groups. Okay, that means political parties form the government. Okay, they actually form the government, but pressure group what they do, they pressurize the government by the interest of the general people. Okay, instead, pressure groups devote themselves to influence the government to realize their demands and objectives. Okay, why they influence? They pressurize government because they wanted to fulfill their demand. Okay, demand for whom? Demand for the common people. Okay, in other words, pressure group seeks to influence government, parties seeks to become government. And another distinction between pressure group and political parties is that while the former focus on only one policy area, the latter have broad program covering all policy area. For instance, trade union or human rights group are concerned with limited goals of protecting and promoting welfare of the workers or human rights. They rarely concern themselves with economic and external policies except when those policies implying on their interest. Political parties, on the other hand, mm, are concerned with diverse policies related to national development. However, the distinction between political parties and pressure group can sometimes be exactly complicated by the fact that some pressure groups are found to have close relationship with one party and another. In fact, there are pressure groups which render support to certain political parties whenever they think their political purposes can be served by supporting them, and vice versa. On the other hand, there are also pressure groups which have transferred into political parties. For example, the Labour parties in Britain and Australia had their origins in the working people's movement. Likewise, in India, Shiv Sena in Maharashtra, the Mizo National Front in Mizoram, and the Aam Aadmi Party in Delhi were pressure group before they become political parties. However, in general, most pressure groups seek to keep some distance rather than to develop close links with political parties. That means they always try to make some distance. Okay, then pressure groups and civil society organizations. Pressure groups are also often equated with civil society organizations. Civil society organizations are organizations and associations set up by the citizens of a country to pursue certain interests, while some of the civil society organization acts as an interest group to promote their respective interests. Other pressurize the government to bring about certain public policies in the grouping interests. In India, civil society groups like Lok Sabha, foundations of democratic reform are pursuing political parties to create avenues for legitimate funding to political parties with transparency and disclose. Okay, then they also significantly contributed in the improvement of voter registrations in India. The groups FDR in particular also works for FDR means Foundations of Democratic Reform. In particular, also works for transparency, right to information, speedy delivery of justice by the judiciary, etc. However, what differentiated pressure group from CSO is that pressure group are more power centric than CSOs, okay, which are interest oriented. Moreover, the dominance of pressure groups are relatively restricted compared to CSOs, whose arena of functioning are usually vast and diverse. Okay, these are the some relating units. Okay, then different characteristics of pressure group. Pressure group came into existence to serve the interest of the community or group they represent. Therefore, their objectives and demand are different depending upon their collective interest of the particular group. However, despite their differences, pressure group exhibit certain characteristics in common. A fundamental characteristics of pressure group is that they neither contest elections nor attempt to direct involve in the governmental affairs. Okay, instead they aim to pressurize government agencies, bureaucrats, and politicians to get public policies in their favor. While doing the political bargaining, pressure group always try to maintain a neutral political positions by concentrating on their specific demands. Therefore, pressure group are sometimes considered as a political groups. Okay, however, they may be enter into the arena of political parties by functioning or supporting the party or candidate who they think will work in their interest. In this regard, pressure group also try to maintain good relationship with political parties. Okay, these are the some characteristics of pressure groups. Then different types of pressure groups. What are the different types of pressure group? First, according to Almond and Coleman. Okay, its first category is institutional pressure groups. Institutional pressure groups are those groups which are formed in various institutions, including government institutions like school, college, universities, judiciary, bureaucracies, hospital, police, etc. Okay, since this pressure group exists within formal organizations formed by professional employed personnel like doctors, lawyers, teachers, they are highly organized in accordance with the proper rules and regulations. Therefore, they are known as professional pressure groups. In India, groups like civil service associations, police families welfare associations, defense personnel associations, Indian medical associations, all India bar associations, etc., all came under this category. That means professional category. Okay, they are formed in order to serve the interest without directly getting involved in the government. Since they are close to the government, they can easily influence the government. Apart from articulating their own interest, they may also articulate and represent the interest of the others. Okay, then next category is associational pressure group. These groups are highly organized and specialized group formed to pursue limited goals. Associational pressure group includes organizations of businessmen and industries like Associated Chambers of Commerce, Confederations of Indian Industry, Federations of Chambers of Commerce and Industry, etc. Okay, these groups, by virtue of their vast array of resources, technical and marginal knowledge, of their close links with elite groups in the government, are among the most influential pressure groups. Some of these groups are also so powerful that even political parties are dependent on them for funds and other resources, and in turn government sometimes serves them by giving concession in the reductions of tax, tariff, trade, etc. In some cases the government even seeks suggestions and advice of these groups on major policies issues of common and commercial aspects. This category also include workers and peasants unions such as all trade union congress, Bharatiya Kisan Sangha, Bharatiya Mazdoor Sangha, student organizations like Akali Bharatiya Vidyarthi Prasad, okay, National Student Union of India, Student Federations of India, etc. Therefore, this category is sometimes divided into different types such as business group, trading group, agrarian group, worker group, and student group, and so on. Okay. Then the next category is non-associational pressure group. This category refers to those group which are informal in nature, brought together by religion, culture, and tradition, kinship, ethnicity. Tribal affiliations or family ties, etc. There is no formal and structural procedure in their activities and demands. Okay, they do not have permanent demand or interest. Their demand and interest keep changing according to requirement of a specific situation. Non-associational pressure groups are mostly based on language, ethnicity, religion, or any socio-cultural aspects in the society. Okay. Some examples of are the socio-cultural pressure groups in India, religious-based groups such as Vishwa Hindu Parishad and Gurudwara Prabhak Samiti, and caste-based group. This type of groups are include in this category. Okay. Then next category is anomic pressure group. Okay, anomic pressure groups are those which appear for a short span of time for specific objective and purposes. In Almond's words, they are more or less spontaneous group, uh, penetrated into the political system from the society. These groups are generally formed in response to unpredictable movements like famine, drought, scarcity of resources, or any similar kind of urgency. Since these groups are spontaneously in nature, depending upon the spur of the movement, they are not guided by any rule or procedural structure. Okay, as a result, their behavior and actions are also quite unpredictable, which form thus violent. Okay, for example, famine self relief group like Mizo National Famine Front of Mizoram or the Assam Parishad formed during the Assam movement can be termed as anomic pressure group. Okay, one the purpose is most of them cease to exist, while other may transform into political parties, like in the case of Shiv Sena in Maharashtra or the Mizo National Front in Mizoram. Okay, then what are the method or tactics of pressure groups? Okay, by following which method they pressurize the government. Its first technique is lobbying. Okay, lobbying refers to an effort made by the pressure group to influence government decisions. Lobbying is one of the most common and significant persuasive techniques used by pressure group. Then second one is shaping public opinion. To highlight the convey their issue and concern to the government, pressure groups widely use the tactic of public opinion campaign. Okay, public opinion campaign is basically geared to attack media attentions and also sensitize the public at large in order to gain wide influence. Okay, then second one is publicity and propaganda. Publicity and propaganda are another common technique used by pressure group. Pressure group usually to do this by propagating their interest through mass media such as newspaper, radio, television, internet, and so on. Then strikes and agitations. Okay, usually pressure group use peaceful means to achieve their goals, but they may also resort to agitations to get maximum benefit of their demand. Such techniques or such tactics include strike, protest, demonstration, civil disobedience. Okay, these are the some form that used by the pressure group to pressurize the government. Okay, then pressure group in modern political system. How pressure group work in modern political system? Group activity is a feature of every democracy and indeed of many authoritarian states as well. Although pressure group have existed for long and will continue to do so into the foreseeable future, it is difficult to assess their role in a democracy. Okay, this is because of the multiplicity and diversity of pressure group. There are simply too many of them and they vary in terms of their aims, compositions, and method. Okay, some engage in continuous political activities which other do so intermittently or vanish after accomplishing their objective. Given this, the generalized comments we make here to do apply to pressure group in the all circumstances. Okay, so this is all about your pressure group. Then now we discuss about our election process. Okay, electoral systems or electoral process. Okay, elections for the looks elections is the process by which people choose by voting representatives to act on their behalf. Okay, to represent them in a legislative body. It may be parliament or even a local body. This process of choice by election is now almost inseparable from representative democracy. Okay, in the 20th century, elections have come to be based on principles of universal suffrage. Okay, one person, one vote, and one vote, one value. Okay, extensive popular participation, secret ballot, and electoral fairness, competitions, and choice elections, when they are conducted on the basis of these principles, are the central mechanism through which the project of representative democracy can be realized. Okay, they perform the function of choosing representative, making government, ensuring governmental accountability and public representation, providing education to the public and shaping public facilitating a legitimacy for the government, influencing public policy and political parties, and creating a dialogue between voters and political parties. Okay, then defining an electoral system. What is electoral system? Okay, broadly speaking, an electoral system refers to a set of rules that regulate the machines of elections. Okay, very clear that electoral system refers to a set of rules. Okay, it refers to a set of rules that and that rules regulate the mechanisms of elections. Okay, these rules deals with the all aspects of elections, such as right to vote, right to contest elections, electoral machinery for conducting elections, nature of voting, structure of ballot, election campaign, expenditure and financing, district magnitude, electoral threshold, date of voting, fairness in counting of votes, resolutions of electoral dispute, and so on. Okay, in this respect, an electoral process is a broader concept. Okay, in a technical sense, an electoral system refers to a legal mechanism that converts votes into seats. Electoral systems are rules for soliciting citizens' preference over parties and candidates, and for converting those votes into representations. That is electoral system. Okay, then varieties of electoral systems. Electoral systems, or how many types of electoral system? Its first category is plurality system. Okay, plurality systems of elections is one of the oldest and most prevalent system of representation. It is often referred to the first past the post system. Okay, it is based on majority rule, meaning that the candidate who receives most vote than any other candidate in a particular constituency, regardless of whether the candidate has acquired in a particular constituency, regardless of whether the candidate has acquired an absolute majority. Okay, examples are Lok Sabha and the state Vidhan Sabha election in India. Okay, it is also used in the Philippines. Okay, and then second is majority system. In order to ensure that the candidates who is declared elected secures more than 50% votes, some methods have been used. The majority system with its two variants, two round systems, and alternative vote system ensure that the winning candidate an absolute majority of the votes cast, that is 50% plus one of the twos. In the two round system, two round of votes take place depending on whether the formula of an absolute majority is achieved on the first round. If an absolute majority is obtained by a particular candidate in the very first round of voting, he or she is declared winner. Okay, in alternative vote system, there are single member constituencies and is based on preferential voting, meeting the voters rank all candidates in order of preference rather than voting for just one in a particular constituency. Okay, they mark one, like one, two, or first choice. Okay, second choice in this way. Okay, then the next category is the proportional representation system. Proportional representation system was invented in the 19th century. Okay, it was adopted by many European democracies, but the turn of the century or in the early decades of the 20th century, it also became a much preferred electoral systems for many national parliamentary elections. Okay, proportional representation system is based on the principle that the percentage of seat for each party should be in direct proportions to its percentage vote share secured in the national election. It means that the share of seats in legislature for each party is more or less equal to its vote share. Okay, in a purely proportional representations, a party, for instance, that secures 30% of the national vote receive 30% of the state in the seats in the legislature. The major reason many constituencies have adopted proportional representation is, as the term indicates, to avoid the disproportionalities inherent in majoritarian system and to achieve a relatively high degree of proportionality between votes cast and seats won. However, as well as we shall see later, no form of proportional representation produce absolute proportionality in practice. Okay, these are all about proportional representations of voting system. Okay, then we discuss mixed member system. Mixed member system refers to a electoral systems in which some seats of legislatures are filled by plurality or majority formula using single member district, and other seats are filled by proportional representations. Okay, for instance, in Germany, 50% seats of national legislatures are filled by plurality formula in single member district formula. while the remaining 50% seats by the party list variant by proportional represent. Similarly, in New Zealand, 60% members of national legislature are elected by plurality formula from single member constitution, and the remaining 40% are elected from party list. Okay, then what are the factors affecting the degree of proportionality? Okay, so the form of proportional representations produce higher level of proportionality than plurality and majority system. Most of them are not absolutely proportional in their mechanism, and practical applications provide largest parties and advantages over the smallest parties. Okay, moreover, the levels of proportionalities vary across the variants of proportional representation. It is the variable of district magnitude and devices of electoral threshold that contribute in determining the levels of proportionality among others. As pointed out by James Hong, the decisive point of proportional representation is the size of the constituency. The larger the constituency, that is, the greater the number of members which it elects, the more closely with the result approximately to proportional representations. The use of electoral threshold in some proportional representation system also influence the level of proportionality. Okay, these are all about its methods of use. Then different electoral system and or its assessment. Okay, or advantages or disadvantages, or is as how it's assessed. Okay, advantages and disadvantages of plurality and majority systems. Okay, first is they particularly mm, FPTP system have most simple mechanism which are understandable for everyone and straightforward to implement. They ensure higher level of candidate recognize and voter identification with their representation there, and the other system in their candidate are known to vote who have a strong relationship with their representations. Then they enrich clarity to democratic responsibility and accountability by providing citizens in each constituency or one representative who is certainly and solely responsible for carrying out duties towards the constituency that he or she represents. They usually produce single party majority government. Owing to achieve coercive majority in the legislature, such government tends to be more strong, effective and stable. They hold extreme at bay, preventing small extremist party to gain representations of legitimacy. Despite these advantages, it also have some disadvantages in this system. Many voters are wasted. Okay, and then in plurality based system, it is not certain that the party which win a majority of the vote nationwide will gain more seats in the legislative, simply for the reason that it is the number of seats rather than number of votes owned by the candidate of the party in their constituency that are counted for allocating seats in legislature. Then they caused derepresentations of small parties. Okay, the next disadvantages is the plurality based FPTP system undermines the legitimacy of government, as it often produces the government from by the party that does not win even 35% of the vote. And they encourage tactical voting, meaning that voters sometimes vote against their own choices when they realize that their favor candidate belonging to a particular party has no chance of winning an election in their constituency. Okay, then advantages and disadvantages of proportional representations. Under them, very few vote constituencies wasted for all, as all parties gain seat in more or less strict proportion in their share of votes. Okay, they enable the small parties to gain representations in the legislature, as the vote owned by them are not simply ignored but rather counted for allocating seats. Okay, they provide wider opportunities to women and members of minority communities to gain representation in legislature. Okay, these are the some advantages, and disadvantages are they break the link between representative and their constituencies. Okay, then they produce ineffective, fragmented legislature and weak, unstable government. By providing representation to a broader range of parties in legislature, which leads to formations of coalition government. Okay, they may create a situation when the parties constituting the coalition government may not exercise power in proportion to their electoral strength. Okay, these are some disadvantages. Okay, then advantages and disadvantages relating to your mixed member systems. Okay, mixed member systems. Okay, it also has some merit and demerit. Okay, its merit point are mixed system consists of some of the advantages of plurality based, okay, system, and some list form proportional representation system. Okay, the countries using this system seeks to achieve what matter or in 1990s saw the replacement of popularity based system and the mixed system in different countries, and it's likewise it also have some demerits. Okay, so this is all about our electoral process. Okay, so you may write down some probable questions. Is first question is how can political parties be distinguished from ideological organizations, associations, and clubs? Okay, then second one is distinguish between a dominant party system and one party system. Then third one is explain the difference between pressure group and political parties. Then fourth one is what are the four types of pressure groups classifying by Almond and Coleman. The next one, why do pressure group attempt to pressurize the government? Explain some pressure tactics used by the pressure group. Then what is an electoral system as a technical category? Then next one is what do you mean by proportional representation system? Okay, if you have any doubt, then you can ask me. Okay, then thank you.